Hello, myself Sunil Ramkrishnan. Here, basically, we are discussing about the formula parts, and in formula parts, basically, we are discussing about the subscription plan, and we have discussed lots of about the subscription, what actually the subscription is, up to what level the subscription plan is there, and up to what level the subscription groups are created, and how basically they handle the subscription, how each and every country's basically subscription plan are created around for India basically 3 to 4 lakh subscription plan are created for the especially for the India country, and this basically contains the 200 crore people also, which basically Indian nationality is having. So like this, the plan is basically prepared for specially for the nationality, that is basically the subscription plan, that is basically 3 to 4 lakh subscription plan is already created. That means you can just imagine the 3 to 4 lakh subscription plan is created. That means to create one subscription plan, it takes around 15,000 to 20,000 cities. So it's a 3 to 4 lakh subscription plan. So you can just imagine for just for Indian nationality, up to what level the subscription plan has created. Basically, what might be the reason? There might be some reason, right? So many expense has done. So because the India is basically God faith company, sorry, God faith country. It's not country company. It's a basically God faith, God believing country. Basically, you can say that's why basically the so much of expense has done. You can just imagine for one subscription, 15 to 20,000 cities are getting created, and to create one city, it takes around 15 to 20 lakh crore. So you can just imagine the expenses which is already done for the Indian nationality, and this expense is already done, right? 3 to 4 lakh subscription plan is already done. So you can just imagine the expenses already done by the subscription plan groups. So one subscription plan example we have already taken. That is basically the example of rainy season. The rainy season is getting falling, and there are basically to create one rainy season, basically 20,000 cities are basically getting used. So here the cities are basically getting rotational wise. It's not the for example, for first rain basically they might be using 3,000 cities. For second rain they might be using 300 cities. For fourth and third rain basically they might be using 2,500 cities. Like this basically it's a calculation. So why the basically this type of calculation are basically done? For example, in India basically how many types of objects are there? Object means the you can touch. So for that basically first of all main is the human, right? 200 crore humans are there. So for 200 crore humans basically you have to prepare special rain basically, right? So that it should not harm your human body. Second basically trees are there. So when the rain falls, the tree is not supposed to get effect. It's not supposed to get harm. If any trees basically want to destroy from India, basically assume that any types of tree basically the subscription plan groups want to destroy, then basically according to that, the rain gets full, and that basically for that basically the government has to do the certain plans, so that basically whenever the rain gets falls and at that tree basically nobody is supposed to stand because that tree generation is going to end. So like this basically trees are there, then basically roads are there of the India. So whatever the materials which is getting prepared for the road, that subscription plan groups basically have that road materials data also. According to that basically they sense the rain. So they are not doing bad to the road. So long term roads are also there, and short term roads are also basically prepared by the subscription plan group basically. So it's a road business basically. Nowadays it's a business only. Educational business is there. So educational range basically gets false. For example, one person told that I am basically a good chartered accountant, but how basically he's good chartered accountant? His basically brains are getting that type of ideas, his blood cells has generated. I have taken one example of the IIT person. He created one air condition. In air condition basically he has dumped all the chartered accountant formulas books, and then basically the AC was getting on, and he was reading the books of the of the chartered accountancy, and he basically cleared the chartered accountancy also. So you can just imagine the so Here basically what I want to say. So the rainy season basically will have to calculate this data also, because they have already approved the air condition. And air condition is approved. That means it's by default going to generate convert into the environment, right? Because the government has approved this. So government has approved the air condition, and whatever basically the data which brain is going to take, that is by default approved by the government, that you have to 100% take into picture. So this type of data basically the subscription plan is going to take. For example, you there are basically I think assume that after world has created, there are more than 1500 disease has already created. And for this basically human has created lots of medicines also. For example, corona medicine, malaria medicine, typhoid medicine, and there are basically many disease basically in this world. And India basically there are many disease also. For example, khasi, sardi, head pain, head chakkar happens, then eye gets problem. There are basically diabetes is there, BP is there, and many diseases are there basically. So that disease basically have basically their antibiotics is basically into the in the environment. So that antibiotic basically also has to be sent by the subscription plan, because so here this all basically by default, it's a by default you can say one patch which is basically by default getting sent by the subscription plan groups. So here basically we are discussing not that the this all are the set of subscription plans which is basically sent by the subscription plan groups. So here basically that's not the topic. So here basically we are talking about the subscription plan groups. So there are basically 15,000, 15,000, 20,000 subscription plans, sorry, cities created. And for rainy season basically they have created some special subscription plan. And they are basically sending the rain for first day this many cities, second day this many cities, like this basically the subscription plan basically are getting used. So like this this is about the little bit about the subscription plan which is already created by the World Bank and their supporters groups. And for that basically they have created around 3 to 4 lakh subscription plan, and this is already created for the Indian nationality. So for that lots of expenses has happened. So if the World Bank is doing the expense, then basically they are going to recover the expenses also, right? Because World Bank has spent 3 to 4 lakh subscription plan. They have created 3 to 4 lakh subscription plan. And for one subscription plan, there are 20,000 cities created. So you can just imagine the expense also which is getting done and which has already done. So like this, all this is also about the subscription plan data. And now basically we are going to discuss about the earthquake part basically, right? Which actually we are discussing in each and every formula words basically for since 3 to 4 parts basically. So here basically we are discussing about the total energy basically which is getting around the buildings. So due to that build energy basically the building is not moving left and not moving right side. That is by default, and this is the reality. That for example government is sorry the for example the government is taken the subscription plan of this. For example, this subscription plan they have taken, assume that this subscription plan they have taken. So in this subscription plan basically each and every building is going to be secure other than that building. So other than that building basically that means the government has not given the data to the subscription plan groups that this building is supposed to be secure. That means if that building is falling, that means that data is not given by the government actually. That's why basically that building has fallen. But if they are not given data, that means the notice department of the BMC basically you can say, and the municipality corporation groups, they basically sends the notice long before that your subscription plan is not sent to the subscription plan groups. So you have to exit from this area. So this exit plan basically is already given long before, and without exit plan basically there is no buildings basically which has fallen long before. So this has basically never happened, that without notice period of the municipal corporation any of the building has fallen. So this has never happened in this Indian history basically you can say, Indian history of the municipal corporation. So this is about the subscription plan. So like this is also one of the earthquake subscription plan of the earthquake. This is one of the type of the earthquake, or one of the type of the subscription also, you can say. So earthquakes basically are handled by this way also. So subscription plan for earthquake, basically the World Bank basically creates. In this, basically the God energies are used. Then basically the freedom fighters energies are used. Then basically the top level athlete, basically you can the sports industries energies are used. And then basically the, because it's a India country, right? So if it's a India country, so Indian energies are only going to be used. That is by default, basically, right? Indian businessmen energy are used. So if they are getting used, that means their blood cells are also getting taken care. That this sportsman, his blood cells is getting used. So you, government is responsible, government and that building construction groups are responsible for that sportsman's energy. If any damages happens to that blood cells, then basically the government and the construction groups basically will be responsible. Why? Because they are using the blood cells energy of that particular person. So whatever basically the person's activity is going to happen, they are basically by default going to track. So now the that person's personal life is already finished. Whatever things he is going to do, that is going to be tracked, because his energy has already taken from the government for the building, for the subscription plan, and the government has already sent the data to the World Bank also, that this is the person, this is the sports person, his energies are going to be used um, in the subscription plan of the earthquake, basically. So they test each and every data. Then only the each and every department of the Indian departments. Basically, there are around 100, more than 100 departments in in the India. Like tax department is there, police department is there, then admin department is there. So each and every department checks his blood cells energy. Then only basically this data is getting used. So each and every department of the India, they basically gives the green signal. Then only basically his energies are basically getting used. And then basically his energies are getting used by the subscription plan groups. They do this lots of checking, basically, because the subscription plan basically groups never trust anyone. And they basically never has to be trust also, because if anything happens to the subscription plan, then basically it going to affect to that group only. It's not going to affect to the India country, right? That's why basically they, that group basically never trust anyone. So like this, the data are taken for the earthquake, basically. So this is basically one of the layer of the earthquake, basically. That is basically the human layer, basically, I say. In this, god energies are used, sportsman energies are used, political groups energies are used, then lots of freedom fighters energies are used. So like this, each and every energies are getting used for the earthquake not coming purpose, and there are lots of energies are used for the earthquake coming purpose. That's basically depends upon the subscription plan, how India takes, and how the India is getting behavior, doing the behavior with that World Bank. So that's basically the negative and positivity each and every country keeps, because no country believes with each other, basically. Each and every country basically keeps the agreements, they signs the agreement, then only basically, um, because trust, you can't trust any of the country, that is by default, basically. So each and every countries do the sign, and then basically the agreement as such. So that's why same way basically the subscription plan groups that are basically World Bank, basically they don't trust anyone. So if they don't trust anyone, right, that means they will not uh, take any of the task in their burden, right? So each and every stuff basically which is done by the India, that is by default handled by the World Bank only. How basically, that is basically the each and every banks which are basically connected, they only handles the they only handles the sorry, the banks are basically by default handled by the World Bank only. And World Bank basically it's a monetary, for use of monetary. So each and every business are basically by default getting handled by the World Bank. So each and every banks are handling the business. and business are basically by default handled by the banks. So there are many less people basically who do the cash transaction, and here basically each and every, you can say, stuffs are basically handled by the World Bank group basically, you can say. Because to create anything in this world basically you have to give the money, right? Without money you can't create a single temple also. It's a god basically place, and to create one god temple, there also basically you require money. So you can just imagine everything everywhere basically it's a business connected, because nobody says that we will do everything in free. So, for example, any temple is getting created. So there basically the monies are getting used, right? Public's monies are getting used. Because why public monies are getting used? Because they know that without prayer, basically, the temple also can't create fully. Basically, if that get creates also, then also basically it will get finish. It might get finished also, because that's why basically the public monies are also getting used, so that basically each and every publics are not same, right? Basically each and every publics are not like same. Few public basically believes in god, and they basically do the fasting. Their basically energies are basically, it might possible that if you take 100 people's money, then at least basically one or two people money will be getting going to bless their temple, right? If you are taking money from the thousands of people, uh, at least one or two people money is going to be blessed to the temple. So that temple can be blessed by can be saved by from just for one or two people's money. So it's like that. That's why basically the monies are taken for the temple creation by the public. So because it's easy, it's possible that one or two businessmen will give the money and the temple can be created. But it's a business means profit and loss, and wherever the profit and loss come, then basically their god things basically never comes into the picture. um, because god says that each and every people are basically equal. But in business basically it's not like that, because in business basically it's totally different. Each and every stuffs are totally different. So here basically we are not discussing that. Here basically we are discussing about the earthquake plan, which is basically already taken by the Indian government. And that earthquake basically is connected up to the certain levels, and is connected up to the this. So this is the one of the layer which we have already discussed just now, that earthquake is going to come. Earthquake is not going to come. For that basically these energies are basically used. So here basically we have discussed around discussed the 174th number topic, that is basically 174th number formula part. And later on basically we are going to discuss second layer of the earthquake, which is basically created by the subscription plan groups.